She and Michael, you've won first prize for this poem. How did you pick this particular poem to work on together?
Well, we were sitting in the workshop and we had like a pile of Chinese originals with translations to go through, and this one I think we mostly picked because it was short. I think we didn't have that long, and I think you like sort of spoke about how like the poem.
Was it a poem that you already knew?
Yes, this is a poem I already knew. We learned when I was in the primary school, so it's basically for every children need to learn this poem. But I think the poem is interesting that it is not a very, very typical Chinese Asian poem.
Why not?
Because usually there are 5 or 7 words in each line, but look at this, now 6 words. And it's very interesting that in this poem, there are not too much figures of speech.
Okay.
I mean, it's just use some very simple, direct words, but it's very strong words. It's very traditional because it's try to build a kind of atmosphere that one who was far, far from home, but we use some very sad words in Chinese. So these words maybe seems in English maybe not that sad. So I think I wonder how my partner, I mean Michael, will do this. So, but he does a very good job.
What attracted you to it?
I think you're sort of doing it like this because you don't know what it means until you finish the poem. You're figuring out how the poem is making its meaning as you sort of go through it. And I think the thing with this is that it's the thing with Chinese poetry is that it's very imagistic. So when you translate it into a language like Scots or English, you have to like put in some verbs and like tie everything together a little bit. So I think that impulse to try and like put it all together, I think is why it's all one sentence and why it sort of overruns runs the line over a lot and builds up and sort of tries to get that going far, far, far away thing to get the sadness in, because you were saying it's a very sad poem, but none of it's all kind of through association and image.
Yeah.
So trying to get that sort of sense without totally tearing out the ness of the Chinese original.
And is there some rhyme in the original?
Yes, there are rhymes in each line, and it's happened to us that we at the beginning we don't think about the rhyme. I mean, we should first be loyal to the original meaning, and all of a sudden when Michael finished this rhyme, we found sometimes it's rhyme. Targeted the text.
And we sort of moved it around a little bit to make the rhyme stand out a bit more, but initially it wasn't like an aim to have it rhyming, it just sort of slowly found its way into it.
When you say it slowly found its way into shape, that sounds like the process of making an original poem. Did it feel like that sometimes to you?
Yeah, in a way that it was really interesting, because usually when you're making a poem you're alone in a room and it's like 2 a.m. and you should probably be asleep, but this was like in the afternoon and you're with someone else and you're getting to talk it through. And I remember we finished it just as the workshop came to an end and we were like, yes! We finished a poem.
Yeah.
Because it does sound and feel made, not least because of the rhymes that are there, I think. To me, that was one of the things that made it the first prize winner. Did it take you quite a long time just fiddling with the rhyming elements?
I think because the lines aren't all they're sort of about the same lines, but they're not sort of strictly the same lines. We had a bit of freedom in that. I think a lot of it was easy in the sense that because the first thing you said about the poem to me, I think, was that the little words were like simple, so it was sort of trying to keep away from the dictionary as much as possible on it, I think.
Yes. Because the original style is very simple. It's like Hemingway, simple but strong.
Yes.
So we try to avoid those very sophisticated words, those very elegant certain words.
And I think that makes rhyming easier in a sense, because
Yes.
words that are more kind of of a simple nature are easier to find chimes and rhymes in them than.
And did you have enough Scots that you were able to do a lot of this in your head, or did you have recourse to dictionaries quite a bit?
Well, I'd been kind of swatting up on like Suter and Gary before I arrived, so I was like reading some Scots while we were doing the project to try and make it less like false and go into dictionaries for the word. Or I think there was a couple of words we had to look up, but I think when I was looking for them, we started from the like sounds. So like we want a word that starts with like a kind of sound and going through the dictionary and seeing what means that, rather than saying
Yeah.
we need a word that means this.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
words do we have?
Okay. So you were translating for the ear.
I
You
think-
were making the poem for the ear.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is the most interesting thing you've learned about Chinese poetry?
Just sort of a way to hold lots of things together in such a small like space. Because like if you look at this on the page, it's absolutely tiny, and it's such a nice thing that you can have so much meaning and association tied up in a tiny little block of text that everyone in the country sort of knows and learns, and it's really nice to have that sort of culture of poetry in such a small condensed thing.
Yes.
It's great.